And now we'll see how the audience contributes here. Our first question, I'm curious how you make sense of the power of intention and positive thinking, both of which have been very valuable to me, with the idea of moving beyond the mind altogether.
Over to you. I've just encountered another being in my life. I encourage you to look her up. Her name is Anita Moorjani, Moorjani, and you can Google her and see a few interviews. But she was wheeled into a hospital in Hong Kong in 2005 with end-stage lymphoma. She weighed 82 pounds, I think she said, and all of her organs had shut down, and her husband and family were there, and they were waiting for her last breath. No one who has ever been at that stage of cancer has ever come back and survived. And she encountered spirit, God, consciousness, the Tao, and was told that she had the choice to go back into her body, which she didn't want to do because she was in such a divine, peaceful. She speaks about it so brilliantly. She's written a book that'll be out in March also. I wrote the foreword to it. It's called Dying to Be Me. And she came into my life at the right, perfect, divine time. And in response to that question, one of the things that she said that she learned in there is that when she came back, one of the things she wanted to do, because within 4 days, her tumors had shrunk by 70%. She was told if she went back into her body, it would be healed. And then she saw it healed, because there's no time. She was able to see the future and the past all at once. She said there's no such thing even as past lives. When I asked her about that, she said, how can there be a past life when there's no time? It's just parallel lives. She said, that's the best I can do with it. It's just everything is parallel. But what she came back with and what she teaches, and she's such a divine, I put her on my public television special. I really want the world to get her message. She said, the thing that she came back with is that you don't have to be positive. She said, I was positive my whole life. I was always trying to please people and be as positive as I possibly could. She said, it isn't about being positive, it isn't about being right, it isn't about winning, it isn't about being better than anybody else. It's just about being yourself and treasuring your magnificence. If you could just look in a mirror and realize who you are, which is not what stares back at you at the mirror, that's got form to it, but who you are is infinite and divine and perfect, and if you could just live from that place, she said, it will transcend all of the fears, all of the worries, all of the illness and so on that we have on our planet. You just have to be yourself, who you are. And that's what I spoke about when we came out here, the difference between being ordinary and extraordinary. Extraordinary encompasses ordinary. We're all following the rules in some way or another and filling out the forms. But extraordinary means I treasure my magnificence, who I am, every moment that I have. That's the power of intention, which is something I wrote, and the power of now, which is something that you wrote. It's just really about breaking it all down, just treasuring your own perfect magnificence.
Yeah. Yes. So being extraordinary really is to be awake, to be an awake being, not moving in the dreamland of complete identification with thinking, but to be aware, to be present. That's the extraordinariness, is the awareness. You are that awareness. And then the thinking that arises out of that is a different kind of thinking. It's not the thinking that you need to actually decide, I'm going to think that kind of thought now, I must try to be positive. That's no longer necessary. the thinking becomes more empowered that arises from awareness. And in that, the awareness, for example, gives when I give a talk, and you also, of course, and many of you will have also experienced it to some extent in certain situations. The words come, they're not premeditated, they're not prepared. I don't know as a person what the next word is going to be that comes out of here. So the words which are verbalized thoughts, the thoughts come out of the field of aware presence. And so that's Jesus said that whenever you don't need to know what to say beforehand. He says the Holy Spirit will tell you what to say. It moves through you. And so then thought actually becomes more empowered too. And then the one consciousness can also create through thoughts that come through you and can create things in this world that you could never even have thought of before. Things have come into my life I couldn't if I had been practicing positive thinking. At some stage in my life I did do that also, but I couldn't even have imagined things like that. And so really to rest in sourceful awareness, and then you will see that the dysfunctional nature of thinking that is there when you do not rest in the stillness of being, then that becomes removed, and the thoughts that do then come are fresh, alive. Far fewer thoughts come because all that mental noise goes, the burdensome, continuous talking in your head, continuous criticizing and judging and complaining, that's still many people's normal state. To have that in that field of awareness, that if not all at once, it dissolves, and then fewer thoughts come, but they are fresh, alive, they make a difference in persons' lives. And so our primary task is, again, what Jesus, perhaps we're talking about Jesus again, Martha and Mary. Martha is trying to get things busy, doing things, preparing the meal. Come on, help me, do this, do that. Walk. And Mary is sitting listening to Jesus, not just listening, she's into, and Martha says, come help me, we've got things to do, there's so much to do. And Jesus says, don't be concerned, Mary has chosen the better part, only the one thing that matters, and really he's talking about the foundation, which is to be, being. And then the doing will come, look after itself. You don't become inactive, but that's the point of rest, and that's the Tao again. You do nothing and everything gets done.
Right.
You don't have a feeling, I am doing it anymore.
When you're writing, is it the same when you're writing? You write like I do, you write by hand, don't you?
I write by hand on a yellow notepad.
I use white.
Oh.
But I'm only number 3, so I'm taking notes. Will you jot down yellow? But isn't it the same way? What you were as you were describing that, yes, about what you were speaking about, I was thinking, I just wrote a whole book without an outline. I mean, I just sat down every day, 4 hours or 5 hours a day. I would just sit, and I would just, whether it came or didn't come, it didn't make any difference. I was there, and the writing was just.
Yes.
It's all channeled. I mean, it's all coming from.
Yes, it's to be there, to have this. The space is there. You are there. You are the space for it to come through. And on some days, nothing comes, and then you have to be just fine with that. Just you sit there, and nothing comes. It's fine. The next day, nothing comes, and suddenly,
It's just an avalanche.
Yeah.
You know? But you're saying nothing comes. But what people will ask me, is that called writer's block? That's not writer's block. That's just the joy of being there and realizing that writing isn't what takes place today.
If you
it's joyful.
If you can't accept that nothing comes, then it's writer's block.
Yeah, right. Right, yeah. It's just so peaceful and so beautiful. That's a new way of writing for me. And I sent as a matter of fact, when I did the John of God story, I decided to write the entire thing out and put it in the book. And I sent it to my editor. Now, she's been editing everything I've written. That's 37 books since 1971. All right. And she called me up and she said, who wrote this? I said, what do you mean? She said, well, there's like 17 or 18 pages here, and it's not in your handwriting. I said, what do you mean it's not in my handwriting? She said, well, the slant is different, the shape of the letters is different, the wording is different. You didn't scratch anything out, because I'm writing if something comes, I don't like it, I just scratch it out and write something else. She said, it is, and she said, and I can't edit any of it. It's just, and literally something had, when I started telling the entities that came into my body and did this healing and sent this dis-ease out and replaced it with love, also were part of my writing. It was just so sweet and magical. And I framed one of the pages there because I've never written like that before. I've never had my letters go this way and the shape of them and everything else. It was like something just came in and took over and just allowed it to come forth. Mm-hmm. That's what can happen. Eckhart, you're talking about this spiritual sort of inner kind of awakening with the formless and so on, but it gets translated into so many changes that can take place in your life. That business about paying attention and being astonished. I'm just astonished at it all. I mean, I did a yoga class before I came over here. I'm just astonished that at 71 I can go into a 105-degree temperature room and do 90 minutes of yoga and walk out and feel great and sit down with Eckhart Tolle and talk to thousands of people all over the world. All of it just blows me away, every bit of it. And all of these faces, all of these nodding, all of this love that's in here, and even being with you, it's so wonderful to have this closeness together. Yeah, it really is. God bless you, man. Yeah.
So, a question from our online audience. Someone wrote in, since you're both very popular and successful, how do you remain humble and in touch with everyday people and situations and not let your ego take over? It's very tempting, this person imagines, to get the best table at a restaurant, the best of everything in the material world, etc. So how do you stay humble?
Go ahead, and I'll respond.
Well, as Woody Allen said, being a celebrity has its advantages. It gets you a good table in restaurants. The answer really is what not long ago, 10 minutes ago, I mentioned, not to accept internally a conceptual sense of self that perhaps the world is telling you about who you are. So I remain humble, but not, I said I'd drop it like a hot potato. I don't want to carry around a conceptual identity because I have experienced in my life how much suffering comes into your life when you live from a conceptual identity in your head of who you are, some idea in your head of who you are. I know that is the beginning of delusion, and I'm not having it. So it's an internal decision, it's a dropping it. And on a practical level, I still often do my own shopping. I go to the supermarket. It's an ordinary life. Everything nothing extraordinary in daily existence. So it's that's how it happens. And I know how it happens to you, but now you're going to talk about that.
It, you know, you just get more comfortable with being alone. And because, you know, in the Course it says, if you knew who walked beside you at all times on this path that you have chosen, you could never experience fear or doubt again. And when you're just, I guess you just get to a place where you know you're not alone, and the things that everyone out there thinks that they would do because they would be rich and famous, like Wayne Dyer or Eckhart Tolle, when you get to that place, you don't want it. Honestly, you don't want it. I give away almost everything that I get, and I have children who are very willing to help me with that. 8 of them. I own almost nothing. I mean, everything that comes, I don't want gifts when people send them to me. I just donate them. And I ask my children to please don't send me presents on Christmas and birthdays and all of that. Just think about someone else someplace who could use that more and give it to them. And I don't mean that to say that because I'm so altruistic. I just am not attached any longer to... honestly, I tell my kids and people that I love that I don't really feel even attached to this world anymore. I really don't. I get a lot of adulation and adoration, and it's wonderful, but I don't take any of it seriously. I don't want things. It's just, I prefer an evening, even when I'm on the road and I'm speaking or whatever, and they have some kind of a gathering for me or a nice restaurant. You rarely see me in a nice restaurant or any restaurant. I prefer to be with people I love, close to me, and or alone with God. And to me, an evening to meditate and to be silent and to read, or to just... I live right on this beach for a good part of the year, and on Kaanapali Beach here on Maui, and I look right out. I'm so blessed. I look out at this ocean. I watch the whales. I swim every day in the ocean. I talk to the whales. I hear them. I swim with turtles out there, these great big sea turtles. I have names for them. I know the markings on them. I spend a lot of time in just peaceful walking and meditating and doing yoga. I mean, this and making a difference, and everything that comes into my life, I just pass it along. And I don't even want to talk about what I do for others, because it's not about bragging or talking about how wonderful I am. I do almost all of it anonymously. But it's just, I mean, you've spent a lot of time, I have too, over the years with Oprah Winfrey. I mean, she has said it many times that people like us who, I mean, she came out of the Deep South poverty. You didn't come out of wealth. I mean, you struggled when you were a young man a lot, or knew about hunger and so on. When these things when they come to me, I'm unattached to it. And the most ironic thing about it is that the more I am that way and less inclined towards my ego and the stuff and who I am, and more stuff just keeps coming. It comes in bigger and bigger amounts, and it allows me to do more and more and more. Oprah has said the same thing to me. I'm sure she said it to you personally as well. It's, you know, I get on an airplane, and I sit down on a seat, and I see a short woman with a bag trying to put it up above, and I just sit there and thank God for the opportunity to stand up and put it in the overhead compartment for her. Now, I don't know if that sounds strange to you, but I feel like, and it happens to me almost every time that I'm on an airplane, some little lady who just can't quite reach, and I think, oh, this is so great. I get to reach up, and I get to put her bag up there, and so I just think all of the opportunities that come to you to serve are the joy that you get out of this place. And I also remember that there's no luggage rack on a hearse. All right, that's there's nothing to take with us. That who we are is just that which keeps occupying all of these bodies, and because they keep changing, they're not real. And that's what Anita discovered, Anita Moorjani, in her near-death experience. She is totally cancer-free today, beyond miracles. They sent her case all over the world to all the cancer institutes. No one has ever returned from that, and she's back talking about the bliss, the perfect joy, the recognition that higher awareness, which you talk about so beautifully in your last book on the New Earth. She said, higher awareness is when you get to a place, like when you're in your dreams. Thoreau said that you're most enlightened when you are in your dreams awake, when you're a waking dreamer. Because in your dream, for 1/3 of your life, in your dream, all you have to do is put your attention on what it is that you would like to have, and it's there. If you want a new Mercedes in your driveway, you don't have to get up and go down, all the trouble, get dressed, drive the car, test it, find the money to pay for it. You don't have to do that. You just put your attention on that. And if you want your grandmother back, who's been dead for 20 years, she's there. Anita's father was there with her, telling her, it is not your time. If you go past here, you can't go back, but you can still go back, and you have something still to do, to teach something. So she put her awareness on her father, and while she was in the coma for 30 hours, she saw her brother get on an airplane in India to fly to Hong Kong to be with her for her last breath. She could see him on the airplane. Higher awareness, I think we can do this when we're awake. Highest awareness is anything I place my attention on, I become it. It becomes me. It's not something that's distinct from me. It's not something that's separate from me. All I have to do from a place of God-realized love, and you become it, whatever you're placing your attention on. You do it for 1/3 of your life, and you can do it in the other 2/3, I think, as well. That's my reaction. Yeah. Thank you.
This questioner asks, I have contemplated what the meaning of life is, and I can't find it. There appears to be no real meaning or purpose to it, other than to enjoy it as much as you can. But at the end of it, your life is as insignificant as an ant's life or a blade of grass. And awakening does not happen for everyone, so awakening to self-realization cannot be the meaning either. Could you both please comment?
That reminds me a little bit of the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes, which starts, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. How that got into the Bible, I don't know. It's a beautiful piece of literature, and it's obviously written by somebody who's very tired of life and has seen it all and can't find any real meaning in it, because he's looking for meaning on the level of mental concepts. And if you look for meaning on the level of mental concepts, all you can find is transitional, temporary things, belief structures, belief systems even, that can be satisfying for a while, but sooner or later your belief system will clash with reality and will lead to suffering. So to look for the true meaning of life cannot be found. And at the beginning of our talk, we mentioned Course in Miracles saying, your understanding is not a powerful contribution to the truth. And we also mentioned maybe I didn't mention, there's a Zen master, a little tiny Zen story to, again, illustrate this. The Zen master asks the disciple, in their usual seemingly fierce way, do you understand Zen? And the disciple says, "No, Master, I don't." And the Master says, "Neither do I." It's not, it's not, you can't get Zen through conceptual understanding, and you cannot find the meaning of life through conceptual understanding if you are able to relinquish your desire to understand conceptually and access that in you which is beyond concepts. Then you find the meaning of life, but you may not be able to say what it is.
Yeah. The question comes from what you said so beautifully, Eckhart, that you evaluate, you use your five senses to determine your reality. And the greatest gift you've been given is the gift of your imagination. And in your imagination, there are absolutely no senses necessary. It's why with leukemia, I don't pay attention to what it says on any form or what any numbers show or anything like that. I know that in my imagination, I can place the words, "I am well, I am perfect health," and I can determine the validity of that and the veracity of that for myself on the basis of how I feel, just on the basis of how I feel. Because if you look at life the way the question comes at us, what is this meaning of life? Life meaning what happens from the moment of our conception to the moment of our death, but life itself in that venue is nothing more than a sexually transmitted terminal disease. That's what life is. That's how we get here. That's how we end. But I love the poets, and Emily Dickinson was one of my very favorites. And she would, in her lectures, she would take a handful of dust, and she would say, "This quiet dust was gentlemen and ladies and lads and girls, was laughter and ability and sighing and frocks and curls. This passive place, a summer's nimble mansion where bloom and bees fulfilled their oriental circuit, then ceased like these." That's not life, that's just dust. Life is that which keeps occupying, that which continues to turn into dust. And once you get it, and once you know it, and once you make conscious contact with it, you know, Melville said, you know, God's one and only voice is silence. That's why meditation is such an important part of what both of us teach. I've written a whole book about it. So much of your book, and The Power of Now, is about quiet. It's about meditation. It's about, you know, understanding that it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. You know, it's the space between the bars that holds the tiger. It's like, it's out of, every word that you're hearing me speak right now comes out of the silence. It comes out of the void. Like, here it is, silent. And now it comes out of the void. I remember interviewing the Red Hot Chili Peppers one time for something on VH1, and one of the drummer, Francione, I think, John Francione, something like that. His father was a judge down there, and he was a drug addict at one time. He was off of it at that time. And he said, when you're writing music, he said, the most important thing to remember is that all of it comes out of the silence, and the silence is more important than the note. You know, because if it's just all note, there's no music. Like, there's no music in that. You have to have pauses. And it's getting into the gap. You mentioned the gap between your thoughts.
Yes.
You know, that's where life is.
And
this is an illusion.
apparently even well, if Deepak were here, he could talk about this. I can't, but apparently even the atoms, they flash in and out of existence.
Exactly.
So there's always the nothingness and then form, formlessness, form. That's really, so the balanced life is to embody the two. Form, the temporary form, to recognize it as temporary, but still, even love it as a temporary expression of the timeless one. So we don't need to despise it as some traditions do. You despise the body. Christianity did that. Sometimes even Buddhism occasionally in some traditions do it. But to appreciate the beautiful forms, but you can only really appreciate it when you can sense that which is beyond form. And then you recognize it in the other. There's a beautiful Christian way of saying that is to love they say to love the Creator in the creature. So the Creator really is the one formless being. So what you love in the other is ultimately, in true love, is ultimately always the formless.
Right. The spirit. It's just.
Yes.
And it's and even the words of Jesus again is he said the flesh counts for nothing. He was talking about his own flesh as well. The flesh counts for nothing. It's the spirit that gives life. And when he said it is only through me that you will come to know the Father, he wasn't speaking about the flesh. He said it counts for nothing. He was speaking about the I am that is in him and all of us, and that is the me he speaks about.
Yeah.
That's the answer. We want a nice short answer, so we take an exam. What's the meaning of life? And here's the answer. If I had to give the short answer, it's just to treasure your magnificence and live as a God-realized being.
We have just 2 more questions.
Okay.
This question is directed to Wayne, but I think it would be wonderful for you both to comment on it, which is, Wayne, you talk about slaying the ego and destroying it. Is that possible, or is it even necessary? Can the ego be good, too?
I've just gone back and forth on this so much in my life. And the problem with me is that I have everything I feel I've written about. So it's all out there. Someone will say, you said this. And there was a long period of time when I said the ego's not worth defending, because to me it's an acronym for edging God out. So we just push God out of our lives and believe. I always say that when the baby is born, after 9 months of nothing for anybody to do, it's all taken care of by God or the Tao or Spirit or Divine Mind. And then after nobody does anything, and this perfect being comes out, and we look at it and say, great work, God. We'll take over from here. And in the process of taking over, we teach, like all of us were taught, we teach people to be ordinary. Who was ever raised to believe that they were God? Someone once said that the reason Jesus turned out so well was because his mother really was convinced that he was the Son of God. When you're a virgin out there having a baby, you're really convinced. It's this ego business is. I don't think it's worth defending, but I don't know how to get out of it. The only time I'm ever out of it is when I'm in deep meditation, and it's only for seconds. I'll feel that it's gone. And is it good? Everything is good.
I think you're out of it already.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not. I just feel more love and peaceful. I don't even feel more love. I just feel like I am love. I really feel that that's what I am. And that's
not the ego talking, is it?
No, it's not. No. But every once in a while, I want to go after those people above me on that list. I just. Where did that come from?
Well, that's a good illustration of how quickly it can creep back.
It can change. It can. Very good. Very
good. And when it does, you have to be compassionate with yourself. There it is again. When you recognize it, it's not really 100% the ego. When you know that some kind of behavior is egoically motivated and you recognize it, Yes, it is still egoically motivated behavior, but there is an awareness also there in the background. And that's that's the transitional stage from moving from being totally dominated by ego to becoming free of ego, is to begin to recognize the ego in yourself. Strictly speaking, the real ego operates in people who have no idea about ego. They are it. So the people who most need to learn about the ego are not here.
But they're right where they belong. They're right where they belong.
So it's the real ego is, you have no idea that you are totally identified with every reaction, with every thought, with every emotion. You just become it. That's the ego. But when you know there's something in you, when you know there's anger arising, when you know that suddenly there's a stream of negative thinking, says, there it is. It's an egoic trait, but it's not really the ego anymore, because you are there as the witnessing presence.
Right. The observer.
Yeah.
Become the observer.
And then our final question. Should I establish goals for my life? And if so, what kind of goals would each of you place a high value on?
I'm not much into goals. And sitting next to the guy who wrote The Power of Now, now and goals seem to be sort of a bit at conflict. Again, I wrote some textbooks back in the early 70s talking about the importance of goals. And I can't have them all withdrawn, but I think that I watch my kids, and some of them are in college now, and some of them are out, and they're worrying about what they're going to major in, and trying to set a goal. And I tell them just to try to just enjoy every single moment, and just let yourself be guided. I think it's great advice for parenting. It's just guide, then just step aside and recognize that all of us have the anchor of the universe located within us. That's what Lao Tzu said. It's in every single one of us. And let yourself be swept with it. Let yourself be taken by it, rather than getting your individual ego in there saying, well, this is what I'm going to do. And, it's like Arthur Miller, the great playwright, he was asked a question at an interview with the New York Times. He was 91 years old, and they said to him, are you working on another play? And he said, I don't know. He said, but I probably am. And I understood exactly what he meant. I mean, I just finished writing a book that I put a year of my life into, This Wish is Fulfilled. And last night, I called the president of Hay House, my best friend, Reed Tracy, and I said, there's an idea germinating inside of me that I think will ultimately become a book. I don't know even quite, I just know it's starting to excite me. And I've often been called the father of motivation all over the world. They've got this title they put next to me, and I always say, if I have to be the father of anything other than the 8 children that I have, I would choose to be the father of inspiration, because I think it's the reverse of motivation. Motivation is when you get a hold of an idea and you take it where you believe that you can take it with your goals, and any obstacles that come along, you're going to plow through them, you're going to make this thing happen. And that's motivation. You get a hold of an idea. Inspiration is an idea gets a hold of you, and it takes you where you were intended to go even before you were ever conceived. I can't imagine you as a little boy in Germany were thinking about, being one of the most famous authors in the world. I mean, and how it all comes about, and what's going to come next for you. And like you said, I don't even know what words are going to come out next. for me, it's just being completely immersed in the now and surrendering, just like turning it over. That's just what I do. I turn it over. And the most amazing things happen when you turn it over. That's when God comes into your life. That's what Carl Jung called synchronicity. You have almost like a collaboration with fate. You're letting it all unfold. In the midst of your writing, I don't know if it happens for you, but there'll be something I'm not sure or whatever, and all of a sudden I'll go to the mail or somebody will pick up the phone and it'll be right there. And it's like, after a while, you start to almost count on it. You start to realize that you don't have to do anything. You can just let it come to you.
Yes.
So I don't think you can be totally free of goals. Like, I have to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to have a goal to go to the toilet, So I don't think I can get totally out of that goal place. But by and large in my life, I just let it be. I think the Beatles had it right. When you find yourself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will come an answer, let it be. I don't know, that's my theme.
What a beautiful song that is. Simple and profound. Like you, I don't have any goals except very short-lived, like having to go tomorrow. My goal is to tomorrow to come here, to do this, to do that. I think there is a time in people's lives when there is a place for goals, but the important thing is the nature of the goal, and if it arises out of inspiration, as you call it, or a vision that comes to you of something that wants to be created through you. It could be a book. When the Power of Now came to me, I felt this urge suddenly of writing. I bought a yellow notepad and began writing the first line, and at that moment I knew it's a book, and I knew what it was about, and it was very different from the kind of casual writing I had done before over the years, sometimes after sitting with people in having a session called counseling sessions, doing meditation with small groups. I would sometimes say things and then later I would write them down because this was new to me too, but I said things that I didn't know before they came out. So that was a more casual writing, and then suddenly an energy stream came of a very different, more empowered kind of writing, and from the very first moment I knew it's a book. So in that sense, one could say I suddenly had the vision of writing a book, one could say. As one could say, I had a goal of producing a book. But it wasn't something that came as with a promise of delivering some kind of personal fulfillment to me in any way, that I can become famous through that, or I can make money through that, or I can become powerful through that, people are going to listen to me. All these could have been motivations for writing a book, but it was more like something, a realization of something that wants to come into being, and then you help it along, you go with it, you become a channel through which that wants to come into being comes into being. It may use your mind, it may use your thoughts. Right. So it's, in that sense, one could have a goal, and the important thing is not to be vigilant so that the ego doesn't take over your goal, because the ego, even though you may have a deep vision, you may not be totally free of ego yet. So at some point the ego can take over, and a good sign that the ego is taken over is you become stressed while you're doing it, or you become as the Bhagavad Gita beautifully teaches, you become attached to the fruit of your action. You attach to the outcome. You need the outcome to be in a certain way. And that's the unconscious state, and that's where goal making really makes you unconscious. So the expression used in the Bhagavad Gita is it's a spiritual practice to take action, including perhaps having goals, but never be attached to the outcomes. In other words, you enjoy the doing in the now. The now remains more important than where you want to get to. If that shifts, if where you want to get to is more important than the now, that's the delusion that arises, and you lose yourself in your doing. That's the dreadful thing. So, in the enjoyment of the doing, and with the enjoyment comes the power also that flows into it, so that the doing isn't a means to an end. Yes, you have a goal, but your attention is in the now and the enjoyment of the energy that flows into the doing. And then it becomes empowered. And then the goal looks after itself. Jesus said the same thing. Don't be concerned about tomorrow. The tomorrow will look after itself. And the goal will look after itself. And again, it comes back to being rooted in that deep place of beingness or awareness, so that you don't need the outcome to give you some ultimate sense of fulfillment of who you are, tell you who you are. I want to become a famous author, that's why I'm writing this book. That's a recipe for dissatisfaction. And I remember saying to people when I was writing the book, and by the way, people said to me, you're writing about the now, think of something else, it's been done so many times. It's old stuff, the now. Ram Dass wrote about it a long time ago, and several people said, think of something else, but I couldn't. And so it came, the now wanted to be written about. So and I remember saying to people, I don't really mind how many people buy the book, and if nobody wants it, I'm fine with it. I don't know why I said what I said. I said if nobody wants it, then I will make a living selling tomatoes. And I really meant it. I wanted to sell. I would sell tomatoes and be just simple living, but the book wanted to be written. But I'm not going to look to the book for some kind of ultimate fulfillment on a personal level.
I think that's important as we close, that when you get to that place, Patanjali said, when you're inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, he said, all of your thoughts break their bonds. He said, your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. And you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world. And then he said, dormant forces, which is what you were speaking about, things that you thought were dead, dormant forces, faculties and talents come alive. And you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. You discover yourself to be God. And these dormant forces just follow after you and take care of it for you. I think the best definition I ever heard of success, I've used it for my whole life. I did a whole PBS show out there in Concord, Massachusetts. I laid down in this man's bed to just get his energy, sat at his desk, felt great identification with Henry David Thoreau, who was put into jail for not paying his taxes to a government that was doing what they were doing to the Native Americans, a man of real conscience. A great definition, a good way to end this, I think. He said, if you advance confidently in the direction of your own dreams and endeavor to live the life which you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. It will chase you. That's how it works for me. And it seems that's how it works for you too. Thank you. Thank you very much.